hate how I sound.
You,
I hate my voice.
you have the sound of a angel of our generation. I've heard you sing.
Thanks.
So, Corey, welcome to the Society Life podcast. It's only been 32 episodes since I've been trying to get you on here.
It's a pleasure to be here.
For those that don't know, Corey was supposed to be my co-host before this thing even started, and I never got a solid answer from him. But now I have him on for the 32nd episode, and Corey is going to share his chiropractic knowledge with you. I have some questions which I've briefed him about as well, but I'm going to let Corey introduce a little bit about himself and what he provides value with into the world.
Yeah, so we'll kind of start off with my background and how I ended up in chiropractic. So I kind of discovered my fitness journey around 15 when I was playing baseball and I was the scrawny guy on the team and I just wanted to get bigger. So I got involved in bodybuilding and I kind of just went into it blindly, not really knowing what I was doing. Just I watched the guys at the gym, how they lift. That's what I wanted to do.
At 15? Weren't you working out with the team at 15?
We had like the weight class or whatever.
Okay, so you were actually going to the gym outside of school.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this is back when I was working out at 24 Hour Fitness.
Okay.
So I did that for probably until I was about 22. Then that is when I discovered CrossFit, and the way I did that, I was just on YouTube. Saw, I think, Rich Froning actually.
He inspired a lot of people.
And I was like, that guy's huge and he's strong. I want to be able to do that. So I got into CrossFit. But that was also my awakening when I realized how much more important recovery is and just kind of taking care of yourself, because I had gone all those years of the bodybuilding type stuff without ever stretching and working out 6 days a week, and just diet wasn't on point. Recovery wasn't on point, and so when I got into CrossFit, I literally couldn't do anything. Couldn't do overhead, couldn't do front squats, back squats. So that was kind of my enlightenment as far as the importance of recovery. So I've spent the last, 7 years making that my priority in my training. So I've taken that kind of philosophy of, the importance of recovery and mobility, stability, all that type of stuff. And I apply that into chiropractic, and the way that I fell into chiropractic was that through my journey through fitness, I developed a passion for health and fitness, and kind of realized that, or I truly believe that diet and exercise cures, treats, prevents, or manages, like 80 to 90% of disease that's out there. So I wanted to go into a profession that kind of backed that philosophy.
What about the quantum field?
Maybe it is a thing.
We're gonna come back to the quantum field. Okay, so when you left high school, did you know to yourself that I wanted to be a chiropractor?
No, so I originally wanted to be an athletic trainer. I wanted to be the guy that ran out on the sports field and took care of an athlete. So that's what I initially started with, and then I actually had a teacher in college kind of turned me off to that. She said I wanted to try and make it to the pros, and she made a remark that maybe only 1% make it to the pros. The money's not that great, not that money's everything, but obviously you need to make a living. So I kind of felt like for the amount of information that an athletic trainer has to do and know, it's not, you're not going to make that much, which you also have to take into consideration. So that kind of turned me off. Then
Well, I'm curious, is that true? That 1% only make it, and that there isn't any, that you can't make yourself a profitable career with it?
I don't know the exact statistics, but I think it's just as hard to get in with the pro team as it is to make it to the pros.
Interesting.
It's a small percentage. And there's just, so that just kind of leaves you with, working for high schools, maybe teaching or working with the universities, and I don't know exactly how much they make, but it's maybe you can make a living, but I feel like you get capped out.
As an athletic trainer at maybe like a high school or college level,
Right,
Okay.
right. I don't feel like there's much room to grow.
To grow once you hit that point.
Right.
Interesting. Okay. So turned off by that, and then you decided to pivot and go towards chiropractic.
Yeah, well, so I originally wanted, and then before that, I wanted to get into personal training. Because I loved working out, and I loved helping people get better, through strength and being a part of someone's growth and their change. And got my certification, and didn't end up doing anything with it. I applied to 24-hour fitness, which I'm kind of glad I didn't get a job at.
Why? Why?
Just very sell.
That's unfortunately, it is how it is.
And I'm not a
salesy person like that.
Yeah, I don't have the salesman type of personality.
Whenever I was there, it's the first month I did really good because they gave me clients to work with, and then they were like, "All right, Al, you got to go get it, bud."
Then just not for me.
Yeah.
And then I applied this was around the time it's not new anymore, but the rec center at UNLV when they were building the gym.
I've never been there, but I've heard it.
Yeah, so it was the years that they were, it was new. They were being built, and I got a job there as a personal trainer. And still kind of the same thing. They were very in order for me to make money, I was going to have to sell packages. I like to think of myself as being a realist and practical, and how am I going to sell a workout package to a college student, for $500, $600? Why are they going to use that $500, $600 to pay for personal training for me when they might need that for books or to live? We were all broke college students at one point.
Yeah, it'd be hard for college kids. You'd really have to think about how you'd want to increase the value of that, or maybe even, unfortunately, maybe price drop that, or that's hard.
Yeah, and that was just kind of the rates that it was, and just.
Did they set those rates?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, so it wasn't even your rates.
Yeah, at least from what I can remember, and just in my mind, if I was a college student, or back in the time when I was a college student, I wasn't gonna spend
that X amount of money on that because you literally couldn't.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't either whenever I was in college for my 6 credits.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it was kind of I wanted to be in the health and fitness industry, but I also felt like I worked really hard through school to even just settle for, personal training. So that's kind of how I found chiropractic, because it kind of backed my philosophy.
What did you start going to school for?
So kinesiology.
Okay, so it was just kind of like the baseline stuff.
Yeah, it's kind of kinesiology is kind of like an umbrella degree. So most people who got that degree either went into athletic training, personal training.
That's what I was supposed to go to school for.
Physical therapy, all those type of professions.
Okay, so then you turned. What made you think chiropractic though?
It just kind of backed my philosophy as treating.
Did you just wake up one day and it was just chiropractic?
Well, through my journey of health and fitness, I just became fascinated with what the body can do, and I don't like the idea of having to take pills to manage things. Like I said, diet and exercise I think can help with most of that, and I just think it was kind of cool.
In the quantum field.
Yeah. Yeah, but chiropractic's a very holistic approach to health, and why not do that then? Just keep taking medication to mask whatever's going on when you can address a cause and fix it that way.
Yeah, very true. So okay, you've gotten to this point. You decided you wanted to start doing chiropractic. Then you went back to school. And that took you to San Jose?
Yep. So once I finished UNLV in 2011, I pretty much went straight into chiropractic school. Probably one of the hardest things I've ever done.
Chiropractic school? Why?
It's just a very rigorous program. It's basically med school.
Did any of that while you were in school and experiencing this transformation and it being very difficult, were you turned off by the thought that maybe I don't want to be a chiropractor, kind of like how you were turned off to the idea of maybe not becoming a trainer?
Oh, absolutely. There were many days where I was questioning whether I was doing the right thing.
What made you push through?
Well, one, I had, put in the time. I didn't want it to be all for naught. This is what I wanted to do, and I got to work for it. If that's what I want, you got to work for it. But yeah, it was just I've always just been driven, work ethic fiend, to hit my goals and get what I want.
Mm-hmm.
And I just had to push through.
Yeah.
I mean, there were definitely days where I was questioning whether this is what I want to do. Am I going to be good at it? It was a hard balance.
Did you enjoy what you were doing?
Once I kind of got the gist of it, my issue with growing up and all through that is I've always been very strong academically, and therefore I've lacked applicationally.
Mm-hmm.
So going through chiropractic school, I knew the information, and I knew I did really well at taking the tests, but when it came down to practicals or having to feel changes in the tissue tone or feeling bony landmarks, I struggled.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was basically I was scared that I wasn't going to get it.
Mm-hmm.
But I kept at it.
Yeah. Okay. So you graduated, and now you work at Canyon Hill Chiropractic here in town.
Canyon Lake, neck and back.
Canyon Lake. What did I say? Canyon Hill.
I don't know.
Canyon Hill. Canyon Lake. Same thing, right?
Very close.
Okay. So you start working for Canyon Lake.
Uh-huh.
You've been there for how long?
It'll be 4 years. So in our so chiropractic school goes by quarters, which are kind of like the semesters, but it goes by 13. There's 13 quarters at the school that I went to.
Mm-hmm.
Our very last quarter, we go out to an office and kind of learn the inner workings of an office.
Mm-hmm.
And Canyon Lake is where I did my preceptor. So I basically just kind of watch how they do the billing, watch how the flow works, just kind of watch the inner workings of how the business worked.
More so business stuff now.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just kind of business and just what it's like in the day of a chiropractor.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually they took me on, and I've been there ever since.
Now, before we exit this idea of your past, let us know some things that you really love about being a chiropractor.
So for me,
like, what drives you?
so I enjoy helping people.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly don't know what else I would be doing if I wasn't. I've always just pictured myself in a field that does that. But I also like being a part of people's growth and people's change, kind of providing them, giving them the push, but watching them do it. But I kind of get that self-gratification that I was a part of that.
Mm-hmm.
And so through chiro, there's many facets of chiro that you can go, a bunch of different avenues you can go down. And so I took the more strength and...
So you're more specific to, like, let's just say strength and conditioning route of being a chiropractor versus maybe general population?
Yeah, so I enjoy working with athletes, but I think the strength aspect and the movement aspect, being able to move well, being strong, that's the approach I take to chiro, and that just comes from my background.
Is there any part where you're adjusting somebody, or you're going through an evaluation with somebody and you ask them about how their mindset is?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I have it. We treat a lot of athletes, runners, bodybuilders, fighters. We treat a lot of them, and a lot of people are getting older, but they're still training in a way when they were younger, right?
So they're not adjusting to their body aging.
Right. And so I tell most of my patients who, they'll tell me, not healing as fast, or I've never had an injury, or this and that, and I tell them, there's a huge, and I experienced this too not too long ago when I was, even just through my own training with CrossFit. There's a huge disconnect between the mind and what the body is, right? The mind, you're gonna feel, if you're 50, in your mind, hopefully, you only feel 30 or 35.
Somewhat younger, yeah.
Right. So hopefully, mentally, you feel young. But you just got to take that step back and remember your body's not going to be able to do what it could at 30, 35. So you need to modify. You need to just modify your training. I'm not saying don't stop training. You just got to be smart about it. And so I'll tell patients, I'm like, yeah, there's just that disconnect. You have to be able to take a step back and remember, hey, I might need to spend a little bit more time on recovery, or I may need to take an extra day off.
Now, these patients of yours, whenever they come to see you, we can use athletes right now, because that's who we're kind of talking about,
Mm-hmm.
do they have their own training programs that they're making up, or are they doing a training program that they had purchased from somewhere, or do they have a trainer, or what do you commonly see?
A lot of them are coming from those, like the Power Hour, Orange Theory, Raw Fitness. We get a lot of CrossFit, kind of those group fitness.
So they're being instructed by someone.
Yeah.
What are these? Not I shouldn't say who, but what is the main cause of these commonalities that you're seeing?
As far as like injuries.
You say injuries.
Yeah.
Why are they coming to you?
So just first off, just our clinic has a very good reputation in the valley as far as treating athletes and just helping with sports injuries. Mm-hmm. And we're good at it. We are athletes, so we know the injuries that are going to occur. We relate to the athletes because all the doctors in the office are athletes. So we kind of have a soft spot. And we want to get these guys back to their training as best they can, as fast as they can. What was the rest of the question?
What's commonality that you see? Why are they coming to you?
Oh, a lot of times it's just it could be random, but a lot of times it's just achiness, sharp pains,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of times it just comes down to people they're not putting in the time for recovery that they need.
Would you suggest that would you say a handful of them are coming from a group fitness atmosphere?
Yeah.
Would you suggest that the instructor of that group fitness atmosphere should be having some sort of mobility or a warm-up protocol or a cool-down protocol implemented within the training?
Yeah, and I'm sure they are.
Okay.
I'm sure they are. Just with the average person's daily life,
Mm-hmm. So this is outside of training now?
Well, just it all kind of ties together. For example, let's take let's just take a desk worker,
Okay.
or something. Right. Let's say you have a desk worker, pretty active though. He's healthy. He's not your typical desk worker. So he's active, works out, does some stretching, works out at a fitness program, but he's sitting 8 to 10 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That sitting is a stress to the body. It's repetitive stress. So you take the repetitive stress from that job, plus the repetitive stress associated with working out. Sometimes that's just too much for the tissue to handle. Even if you're good about stretching and stuff, sometimes it's just you're trying to play catch up.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just that's where people just have to be that much more diligent with tissue work. It's not that they're doing the wrong thing or they're not doing the right thing. It's just they're not maybe doing enough. And you can't really define that, I think, because it varies person to person. It's just kind of like you got to stretch, you got to do your mobility work, and you kind of almost just hope that it's enough.
Mm-hmm.
And you modify your training, you modify your work, and postures. I don't know.
Right.
But I think ultimately it's just up to that individual trying to figure out what they need specific to them to
help them feel better, to kind of get them going back with better quality of life.
Or just to reduce the chance or potential of injuring themselves.
Okay. Switching topics just a little bit, and we'll kind of come back and rehash a little bit about that. Some skepticisms that you hear about being a chiropractor, which I wouldn't say there's a lot, but you hear it from time to time of people saying, I don't really like going to a chiropractor because of such and such. What are some of the common skepticisms that you hear from people?
So, back in chiropractic history, there always was a big issue with like medical docs and chiros, and we were called quacks. And I'm not gonna lie, there still are some kooky
Chiropractors?
Yeah.
Or doctors?
chiros. I mean,
I'm
there's
sure
good,
there are doctors too.
Yeah, there's good and bad and everything. It's just it's how it is.
Mm-hmm.
And and unfortunately, you can have a million good docs, but one bad one to ruin the whole reputation for a profession.
Mm-hmm.
That's just kind of how it goes. But yeah, there's some kooky stuff out there.
What are some common skepticisms that you hear from people coming in? What are some weird questions that you get?
So probably the biggest one is, people are always worried that they're going to have to come to us for the rest of our lives.
Mm-hmm.
And my response to that is what we recommend at the clinic is when people are feeling really good, and they have all the tools that they need to, basically help fix themselves, is we suggest doing a tune-up or a maintenance treatment every 4 to 6 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where people kind of get this, I have to go for the rest of my life type of thing. But it's kind of the same concept as putting oil in your car,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you don't change your oil, what's the word?
Every
Consistently.
Yeah.
Consistently, right? It's going to break down the engine.
Wear and tear.
Mm-hmm. Right? It keeps the engine working more efficiently for a longer period of time.
Mm-hmm.
The same things with the human body.
Okay. So you use this kind of dialogue or almost this kind of conversation to kind of reassure and smooth some skepticisms.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Ultimately, people are going to do what they want to do, and I obviously want what's best for them. But yeah, getting tuned up, every 4 to 6 weeks, it's just to keep people in, rocking and rolling and doing what they love to do.
Mm-hmm. Now speaking of quacks, as you called it, tell me some pseudoscience.
So,
going back to the quantum field, I was asking Corey about the quantum field because I've heard a lot of healing can be done within the quantum field, but it's based off of pseudoscience.
Yeah, so I don't know much about that. I don't know what that is. But, if there is some hard evidence to suggest it works, maybe it does.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. At the end of the day, if it helps people, it helps people.
Yeah.
But it also needs to be, there needs to be hard evidence to
suggesting it,
that
yeah.
It works.
Like it might have worked for like we were having a conversation before, one person, but it is not actual science behind backing the whole thing.
Yeah, there might be a lot of anecdotal evidence, which is just kind of basically personal experience from person to person to say, yeah, it works.
Mm-hmm.
But there may not be any hard clinical studies that have been proven over and over again to justify that it really does work.
Do you hear any kind of pseudoscience stuff?
Not much. The only thing that comes to mind, and I'm still blown away with how it works because it worked for me, but I don't, and it almost put me in a different direction, chiro. So my chiropractor here did a technique called applied kinesiology. I went to him for my allergies.
Okay.
So what he did was he had little jars in his office of different pollens that were more prevalent for the time. I put them on my rib, and he would do some manual muscle testing. Sorry, I got something in my eye. He would do manual muscle testing, so he would test the strength of my muscle.
Okay.
And if I went weak or I couldn't resist him, my arm would drop.
Okay.
So we went through whichever pollens I had the allergy to, and so we then.
So hold on, backtrack for a second.
Uh-huh.
He had jars in his office, little like mason jars.
Even tiny, maybe little vials.
Of allergies?
Like different dusts, different, pollens from different trees, stuff that's prevalent in the valley.
So what he would do is he would apply it to right underneath your rib, which would be where your liver is at, on the right side.
Or lungs or bronchioles and all that.
And then he would start testing your muscles. And how would he, not with an electric stimulator, he would just have you just
press down on it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he'd be hold strong.
And depending on which one, but depending on which one was applied and your arms dropped, would be the one that you have a allergic reaction to?
Yep. So the way that he, quote, corrected it, quote, is I'd hold the pollen to my rib again.
Okay.
He would adjust me with the activator, which it's basically another way of adjusting.
Okay.
Applying the force differently. And then it went strong. So you kind of get that instant gratification of, maybe it worked.
What allergy was that for you?
Oh, I don't know. There was probably 5 or 6. And so here's the thing that tripped me out. For the next 5 or 6 years, I didn't have any issues.
With that particular,
with allergies in general.
Okay.
Then I started to get symptoms. I was like, all right, let me go back. He did it again, and then they went away. So the fact that I had them and then they went away, well, for me was kind of oh, interesting.
Do you still deal with allergies now, though?
Knock on wood, they're really, if I do, they're very mild. Because I used to be bad as a kid. I had asthma as a kid. allergies as a kid. You know.
Well, what would you say worked then? Would you say it's the rubbing of the allergy on your skin, that it's absorbing it, that it's like taking it in your body, and it's like
that's what I mean. How do you show hard evidence of how that's working?
That's interesting. Now, does this doctor do this with everybody, or just for a particular? Does he do different things for different people?
Well, that's the thing with with applied kinesiology is it's more geared for whole body wellness. So like allergies, and this is where it kind of gets kooky, but it might be able to help with certain mental disorders, ADHD, ADD, anxiety, depression. I don't know, but it's more of like a general wellness. And so what it's interesting is, the different muscles where you're weak, certain muscles they're somehow correlated to whether it be segmental dysfunctions where people would need to be adjusted. Certain weaknesses will show segmental dysfunction, have been correlated with certain segmental dysfunctions, certain vitamin deficiencies, mineral deficiencies, and so supposedly by identifying them as a muscle is weak, you can identify a deficiency somewhere.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Do you apply any of that to your practice?
So that was kind of the original direction I thought I was going to go with chiropractic. Because I was mind blown.
Yeah.
With that. And so when I was in chiropractic school, so I was in chiropractic school, they don't teach that type of stuff, so I had to do an outside certification.
Sure.
So while I was in school, I did a 100-hour certification course on it. So I had to learn all the muscle testing, kind of what muscles correlate to what, and all that stuff. But because I was in school and I never really applied it, it didn't really stick.
Yeah.
I think the only one I use from time to time is I'll do some glute med testing on people, because generally most people's glute meds are weak.
Yeah, I would say so too. So if someone wanted to do what kind of like you're talking about from this, almost sounds like a holistic approach, where would you suggest them to start?
So again, that just goes back to my philosophy of diet and exercise.
Okay.
So start there, start out exercising, once a week, twice a week, just to start moving, and then just fueling the body correctly. I'm not a huge fan of all the diets out there. I just believe in eating whole food, nutritious food. And I think that's the place to start, and then that's kind of the umbrella, and then once that becomes a lifestyle, then you can kind of hone in. But I think just diet and exercise is the first step. Backtrack for me real quick. Back to you say the only one for the glute med for when people are not as strong there. What almost holistic thing do you do for that? And what is a glute med for people that don't know? So glute med, there's 3 parts of the gluteus. Everyone's probably heard of the gluteus maximus.
It's your butt?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. So then there's 2 other parts to it, the gluteus medius, gluteus minimus. Both of those are more responsible for like hip rotation and just kind of overall pelvic stability. And so, first we just got to identify if that muscle is
strong or weak,
right? And then basically it's just giving them corrective exercise. It's something super easy to do at home.
How does that apply to almost like the holistic approach though?
It's a good question. It's again, I think it's.
And what does that stem to? So what does that mean if they have tight or hips aren't as strong? What is that in correlation to, like, let's just say the allergies or?
So in that regard, I don't remember, but in our clinic, a lot of times when people's glutes aren't firing, their back. It's something's going on with their back.
Okay.
So we do a lot of kind of reactivating the glutes to help with lower back pain. That's generally what we're going to see. So I think the first step of quality of health or quality of life though is in holistic health is most people come to our office in pain. So that's the first part, is we got to get them out of pain, and that's I think the first step for kind of their holistic health is get them out of pain, figuring out why they hurt, helping them to fix it,
Mm-hmm.
giving them the things they need to do to manage it and fix it, and then maybe other lifestyle modifications to help it from from it coming back.
Do you ever recommend any kind of pseudoscience to any of your patients?
No, I'm kind of, maybe there's some good stuff out there, but my kind of thing is,
What about this allergy thing that you had taken yourself personally?
so I mean, sometimes I'm a big fan of just treating things conservatively from the get-go.
Mm-hmm.
If it's out there, so be it. And I know it worked for me.
Mm-hmm. But it might not for that other person.
Right.
Which makes it pseudoscience.
It could. So for me, it's more like anecdotal evidence. So
Yeah.
I could tell you, like, yeah, man, you should go to this chiro. It worked for me.
Mm-hmm.
But there may not be enough like hard evidence to say that this type of
Thing will actually work for this person.
right, or it hasn't been shown to work consistently. But yeah, I mean, sometimes people, if they're telling me they're having really bad allergies or whatever, and they're like, oh, what do you think about acupuncture or acupressure?
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, yeah, why not?
Sometimes I hear so much bullshit about what people are doing, and it doesn't ever seem like it works.
Yeah. I mean, and at the end of the day, like, if it works, fantastic.
Uh-huh.
If it doesn't end up working, that's okay too.
Mm-hmm.
But why not go after it, very conservatively, like acupuncture, acupressure, chiropractic, changing your diet, exercise. Why not start there as opposed to just jumping into the pill?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. What if it's a life or death need? Obviously,
Obviously there's certain circumstances where a pill is necessary, obviously. But even still, diet and exercise, I think, can almost it could just help with
overall quality of life,
Yeah.
enhancing it. All right, so other than starting today, let's just say, with nutrition and fitness, and it can be any kind of fitness plan, it doesn't need anything specific.
Right. I think it's just important for people to move. I mean, it can be, anything they enjoy doing. I just think the key to quality of life is movement.
Okay, what else would you recommend that somebody does?
Just for quality of health or quality of life.
Yeah, let's just say
Holistic health.
they want to increase your life span,
Yeah.
be happier, healthier, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
What else would you add to that?
Trying to limit stress.
How do you limit the stress?
I'm still trying to figure that out.
Yeah, that's not your field, right?
Yeah, no, just it's keeping, just doing things that you love, things that are gonna make you happy at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a family to go home to, spend time with them. If you like, we're getting into golf.
I mean, you're getting into
I'm gonna
golf.
get into golf.
I've been into golf for years. I'm like borderline PGA.
Oh, okay. But I mean, it gets me out, and it's me trying to do something. It helps take my mind off whatever else I got going on. So it's just a little break from reality, and I think you need those.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So exercise right, eat right, and just do things that make you happy.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Is there any other things that you'd like to leave for listeners for today? Other than the fact that, if you did not know, if you're a member of the gym, they...
So
we're not promoting this, but not enough people know about it. So that's why we're just opening this up to Corey right now.
Yeah, so for all the members of Society Fitness, we do take, at the office, we do take pretty much most health insurance. There's a couple we don't take. And if someone doesn't have health insurance, I just offer them a cash rate of $50.
Mm-hmm.
And that's for the members only. And that includes all therapies, so we have the electrical muscle stimulation, the heat, we have a therapeutic ultrasound, and a traction table for if anybody has disc injuries or like sciatic symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
That includes the adjustment. I do a lot of soft tissue work. So that's all included in that 50.
Yeah, so if you're a member, that's something to take advantage of. Is there anything that you want to leave people with?
Just take care of yourself now. Things we do to our bodies now are going to affect how we are later on.
What was that thing you told me about 2.5 years? Was it 2 years ago, so a year ago, I don't remember. I think it was when Bree was pregnant with our first kid. You were saying something about, I know what you said, but I want you to say it.
I'll see if I remember what I said.
It was.
My memory's not so good.
We were talking about quality of foods. I think it was a discussion that we were having whenever you were a coach here in the morning. It was like talking about the quality of your foods and how expensive some foods may be versus the cheaper foods that are cheaper and less quality right now. So it's like, what was that? Do you remember?
Not exactly.
Okay, I'll just say it then. So the quote that you told me was, investing into your nutrition now, or in the future you're going to have to be investing into your health just to live. That was more of a darker way of saying it. That's not what he said at all.
No, it's dark. Yeah, no, I treat health like an investment. So, you take care of it now, you're going to pay for it less later on, whether it be, finances for prescriptions and doctor visits and all this stuff for quality of life. It's sad to see how many people they have trouble walking or getting up off a chair or putting a jacket on or putting something on the top shelf or opening a fridge. These are all easy things that we take for granted that if we didn't take care of ourselves early on will be difficult when we get older.
Yeah.
I want to be able to work out and golf until I'm 90.
I don't know why I came off so dark with that one, but that for some reason that's how I remember. That's weird. Maybe it's a quantum field thing. You said something and it registered in my brain as a different way.
Maybe.
I don't know. Okay, so if one of the members or somebody wants to get a hold of you, they obviously call Canyon Hill or Canyon Lake. I'm sorry.
Canyon Lake, yeah. So they can either call Canyon Lake at 702-256-2225.
You're the first person to get out a number. Okay.
Yeah.
Ask Corey. Any other ways?
I have some trifolds on the desk at the gym, or I'm here at the gym 3 days a week, and people can always talk to me directly, or they can talk to you. And
yeah. Okay.
yeah.
All right. Cool. Thank you, Corey.
Thanks.
You can leave these on if you'd like.
Is it over?
It's not recording, except for that. Hold on.